everybody. I'm Marian Waldman with Teach My Kid to Read, and I am thrilled to introduce you to Mandy Babirad and Kerri Carpenter today. And Mandy Babirad is the children's librarian at the Kinderhook Memorial Library. And Kerri Carpenter is the cataloging specialist at the Mid-Hudson library system here in beautiful New York State. And so today we're going to talk about this wonderful community, and we're also going to talk about how the Kinderhook Memorial Library worked with the Mid-Hudson library system to create a collection of decodable books. So before we begin, Mandy, I'm going to start with you and ask you to just tell us a little bit about your library and the community of Kinderhook, New York.
Sure, yeah. So our library is located kind of in the Kinderhook Square. It's a very old library, built there in the 1930s, I believe. In the last 5 years, we've gone through a very, very large renovation where we've more than doubled the size of the original footprint of the building. So we've kind of been like on the up and up since then. Our newsletter hits 6,000 households. We serve, 2,200 children in our area. I might have to revise that number, but I think that's what's coming off the top of my head. We're a very small community, but our patrons are exceptionally proactive for us. It just feels like we don't have to do a lot of work most of the time because we have a very, very supportive base of patrons who are always encouraging us and helping us market programs and fundraising, and just, we really owe a lot to our patrons for allowing us to do really exciting stuff like this. So yeah, we're a very rural agricultural community, 20 minutes from Albany, 2 hours from New York. So we do have a lot of downstate folks that own houses in our area. So we kind of serve like a split, like a two kind of community, like rural and city a little bit. So yeah, that's Kinderhook. It's a very evolving community right now, especially because of COVID. So we're rolling with the punches.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful community. And, I always find it nice because it is a community that I'm somewhat familiar with. And I do have to give a plug in because you have a rail trail, and I'm just an enormous fan of rail trails. And I actually often park in a cornfield in Kinderhook, New York, and I use the rail trail to Hudson, New York and back. So it's a really beautiful, sweet place. And the whole Mid-Hudson area is just gorgeous, and that's the nice thing about this month, is being able to just show off about all these wonderful communities.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, now we're not traveling as much, and so now when we start to travel again, maybe we'll have a little library map of all these wonderful libraries and these wonderful communities. There might be a whole other tourism piece that we're starting to into.
Library tour, that'd be great.
yeah, it would be. So anyway, I'm digressing. To get back to your amazing library, how did you first hear about Decodable Books? Because this is an interesting story.
Oh yeah, so I mean, I had never heard of them before. But Jen Ose, as you have mentioned, emailed me and my director. It was a very formal email. It was kind of like a proposal that she was giving us, because I know that she had talked to the school before talking to us, with just a lot of information. She gave all the bullet points about what decodable readers are, the Teach My Kid to Read website information. You might be interested in this organization. So I signed us up immediately. and got to looking through it. And she had mentioned geodes in her email as like a possibility. Maybe you guys could get this. I hadn't had luck with the schools. Could you look into it? So my director, Annalie Dragon, and I kind of did some investigation, and I'll admit at like first investigation, it seemed like an impossibility. I kind of in my head was like, I couldn't see how this could happen, especially with geodes, because it's, you know, prohibitively expensive. I didn't think much about it after that, but then we were having a quiet season because it was a pandemic. So I kind of got to investigating a little bit more, reading a little bit more, thinking like, oh, I mean, this is really interesting. I've never heard of this before. So I started looking into all the different publishers and seeing, you know, what this whole kind of phonetic learning system was all about. And I don't come from a public library background. I was an academic librarian for 7 years before I came to Kinderhook, and I was only in my position for 6 months before the pandemic happened. So the person who brought it to us, combined with the circumstances we were in, kind of gave us a lot of time to think and strategize and learn about decodable readers, because I think that if this had come to us in like a more chaotic season of our kind of life cycle, I don't know what would have happened. But yeah, so Jennifer is really like the person who brought this to light for us, because it had not been on my radar at all. I don't think anyone in our library had really thought about these or known what they were. So yeah, she's a very, very wonderful advocate for providing materials for children with reading difficulties. So we thank her for that.
Yeah, and we're going to be featuring Jen Ose-MacDonald as a separate interview to talk a little bit about the process and in her story, and you know, just she's phenomenal. And so Jen you know, provided any information that Jen provides is airtight, and she obviously gave you the best information. Which, you know, is just, you know, great. Yeah, she's an amazing advocate. So then what steps did your library take then to start bringing these decodable books to your library?
Sure, yeah. So the first thing that I did was just reach out to geodes and be like, hey, would you sell this to a public library? And they had some follow-up questions like, what do you plan to do with it? This is so interesting. Like, how are you gonna use this collection? I'll answer all of that, but I really just want to know like how much it costs. Like, there's a reason they don't put the prices on the website, because there's a little bit of a sticker shock when they tell you how much the you know, it's sold in 3 steps. There's 3 levels with different modules throughout. So you have to buy each one separately. And I admit that like when Annalie and I were looking over this, we kind of like laughed at first, because we were like, wow, that's a lot of money. But I have to give Annalie a lot of credit, because I come from an academic background where at the end of the day, there just is no money for anything. So I kind of gave up very easily. And that has everything to do with my background and nothing to do with our organization. But she's a yes person. So she was like, let's see what we can do. One of our board members is a 3rd grade teacher at the Ichabod Crane School District, which is just down the road from us, the school district that we are part of. And she wrote a grant for us. We were hoping to get 5,000 and we got 2,000, which like once we broke the barrier of like, we have a little bit of money, it felt more possible then. So even to me, I was like, well, there's still like a huge margin we have to make up. So Annalie reached out to Jennifer and said, here's what we have. what, how should we proceed? And once again, I never would have thought to send that email to just say like, what can we do now? We have a little bit of money. What can we do now? And I mean, Jennifer just kind of hit the ground running with it. She just, in an amazing feat of fundraising, just made up the difference for us. And it was very incredible. And it happened very quickly. So we ordered it and it arrived on a freight. And that, I think once it like arrived, we had to it was like a massive brick. So we had to put it in front of our fireplace, just in the main room of our library, because there was no other place to put it. It was just this huge thing. And then it was really like, okay, what do we do with this? we have this massive collection of decodable readers, which we still really don't know how to use or what to do with. But once our fundraising and grant writing efforts were taken care of, we just wanted to get it bought as quickly as possible, as kind of like a reward for all the efforts that everyone had put into it. So that's how we came to it. It really was just, we just had to find the money. And like I had mentioned before, our community is like super mobilized in our favor. We have a very supportive patron base, let me just put it that way. We are an anomaly in libraries in that we have the absolute privilege of being in a pretty wealthy part of Columbia County, and that we try to honor that by providing like everything we possibly can with every dime that we're given. So this is another example of that. And I think that it's really mobilized us to try to like maximize this, because we feel really lucky to have it.
Absolutely. And now we're going to cross into Kerri's world. So the books, these massive, the massive decodables arrived, and you ordered some additional ones besides geodes, right? Whole phonics.
Yeah, we got whole phonics. We also ordered the suite of Bob books, but there's other libraries in our system that have those. So there's records available, the whole phonics and the geodes. And I mean, Kerri had helped answer a few questions of like different odds and ends cataloging questions that I had prior to this for things that I just didn't have the expertise for. So when I emailed her and I was like, hey, it's me. We have this huge collection that I'm way in over my head. I don't know how to make this findable. And I think a lot of people don't realize that without cataloging, without an OPAC, without like good cataloging, it might as well be as if that material doesn't exist, because you can't find it. There's no way to find it. It exists in its physical format, but is invisible to literally everyone that you want it to be available to. So yeah, I emailed Kerri and please help me, basically is what I said.
Yeah, so Kerri, talk about then what you do, because this is where we get pushback too, is can you guys pre-catalog these books? And we've had librarians say, oh, we'll get you a freelancer. We're like, wait a minute, we don't publish them, but if what we do, try to make it easier. And I think I told you one of the small publishers we work with is now having them pre-catalog. But I mean, this is an important, this is an issue with these decodable books. It's scary, the cataloging, getting it into your system, even the spine. What do you put on the spine? So talk about your role with these books, Kerri.
Well, in our office, we don't see the physical material. We don't get to touch the physical material. We depend on the libraries to send us as much information as they can. And Mandy sent me links to the websites for geodes and whole phonics, and I was able to see what are these materials, how many are there, what are the titles involved, because it's like she said, it came on a pallet you know, it ended up being, I wrote this down, 15 just geodes, 15 separate records, each consisting of 8 to 16 volumes. And they have multiple volumes. It's so much. And it's up to the libraries to kind of decide, how do they want to circulate it? Do you have, where are you keeping it? How are you labeling it? Storage? We don't get involved in that. We manage the public catalog. We need to make sure it's findable by their staff, their librarians, and the public when they're searching the catalog. So it was really important to just kind of communicate with Mandy about these materials and what do you have. As I probably sent how many emails back and forth,
so many emails
over weeks. You know,
yeah.
we started doing them one way, like, I think this might work out better a different way. So it ended up being separated into how they thought they should look in their catalog, because they do their own item records. We do one main record where people can search in the catalog. They can search by an author, a title, because there are many titles. They can search by sequence, decodable. They can just put in a keyword like that and they'll find these records. And it was important to put as much information as possible so people can find them in the order they need to find them. They're books that are important to read in sequence to help young readers and people with reading difficulties. I have a young reader at home, so I was kind of invested in making sure that this was, you know, definitely something that our public could find. That's what we do in our office. So I don't know if you have more questions about it, if I'm kind of explaining it well. I'm not a speaker.
Yeah. I'll add on to what Kerri added to, and I think this is important for other librarians that are going to work with their system. I mean, yeah, it was like a flurry of emails over the course of like a week or something, back and forth about like, I mean, I could pretty much see the changes she was making in Sierra, like real time, just to say like, oh, this looks great. I love it. We had decided to do it by like, I think level first, and then I started entering things in that way. And I was like, well, wait, let's do it by module. And she made that happen.
I have a whole notebook with like 3 pages of record numbers and information. So we ended up breaking things down. But the geodes, I'll touch on that one because that one had the most by level, and then individual modules. So one level K, ended up with 4 records. Each record has 8 or 16. So I think the higher level ones have like 16 titles.
They do.
Each one has that many books in there. So finding the information about the titles, the authors, if there were illustrators, people like to look those things up and want to be able to find them. So it's just a matter of, for other libraries who may take this on, put as much information as you can get in that record. Too much information is never a bad thing. So it's just keeping it organized. We're kind of limited as far as subject headings go, because we use the Library of Congress subject headings, but they're great ones. Reading, phonics, those kind of things. We can search that and you put that in. If I just go in and search and I'm looking for books for my 6-year-old, I can just write, you know, phonetic reading or something like that, and I'll find these, and it'll have so much information. So I don't know how they organize them in their library. I don't envy it. I'm glad I got to work with a website and just typing things into the computer, because I have in the public library, I have cataloged actual materials. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and to just have all of this in front of you, how am I going to put this out for my patrons? And that's a big thing.